My name is Martin Cook.
Yeah. Okay. Or like, how would you define yourself in your role?
My role. I would define myself as a producer engineer, as like a support person for an artist or a band. And my role, I think, is to help. I use this is probably a terrible analogy, but I use the analogy of like a doctor delivering a baby. Like the band or the artist is the pregnant person, and I'm just trying to help bring whatever their art into the world. It's not mine. I can't take credit for it in that sense, but just trying to make it the best thing it can be.
That's pretty
Um,
good.
but yeah, I mean, I don't like to be the kind of person that's like, this is my thing. This is my sound. This is my stamp. It's just like, I like to help. I like to be collaborative and um, help bring someone's ideas into fruition, I guess.
On your path to being a producer, or mixer, or an baby deliverer, like what were the sort of like forks in your life that like ended you up here?
When I left Berklee, because I dual majored in music production and music synthesis, I focused a lot on, in music production, it was, recording, making records, that kind of thing. In music synthesis, I focused a lot on film stuff. Like I wanted to do sound design for film.
Yeah.
So I had this idea that when I moved to LA that I could work in a studio like Monday through Friday, and on the weekends I'd do like freelance sound design. Which, thinking back on it, it sounds absolutely insane that I thought that was a possibility. And it was just kind of whatever happened first. And I happened to get my job at Henson Studios. And I worked for 90 days without a day off. So
Wow.
there was no sound design on the weekend.
Do you still work there sometimes?
But I ended up getting a job there. No. I mean, I've done sessions occasionally as a client, but yeah, I worked there for 6 years between being a runner and being a staff engineer. Bust your chops and you learn everything.
See. And when did you graduate Berklee?
Yeah. In the fall of 2006.
06.
Yeah.
It's like
06.
Was there anything that like you think in your childhood like got you to be a musician, I suppose, or not, but like, I know you're a drummer, but like anything that like gave you the curiosity to like start pursuing music, and like how did you like choose Berklee kind of thing?
Music. Piano lessons as a kid, that was my first instrument, like most kids do. And when I got to middle school, I was going to be in band, school band.
Yeah.
And they asked anyone that played piano to audition for percussion, because technically a piano is a percussion instrument.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I guess I was kind of a natural with my hands, with timing, stuff like that. So I ended up doing that, playing percussion in school because of the piano lessons I took. And then I always just liked it. I was, I loved playing drums as a kid. It was like my obsession. It's all I did. And when it came time to school, think about college, I actually went to school in Houston for 2 years at the University of Houston before I went to Berklee as a music education major. And, was doing all the repertoire stuff, you had to learn. And it wasn't gelling with me. I thought I wanted to do it, but it wasn't as natural. It didn't come as natural to me as it did other people. And I just was like, I wasn't vibing on it. So I thought a lot about what I wanted to do. And actually, it's a funny story. I originally went to Berklee as a film score major, because at one point I was doing a lot of arranging at the University of Houston. And I was like, this is fun. What else could I do with this? And I really got into film score stuff because of the Lord of the Rings extended DVD collection. Because there's so many great behind the scenes things of like the film score, the sound design, all that. And I was like, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. So then I was trying to figure out where to go to school that I could learn sound design and film score. And like Berklee was like the number one, most contemporary, school that would do that. But yeah, so that's why I originally went to Berklee, was film score. And as you know, like the first couple semesters you're there, it doesn't really matter. Your major doesn't matter. You're doing all the basic stuff.
It's like,
Yeah. And it was
discovering
like
your artistry.
exactly. And like you had to take like music tech 1 or whatever. And so I took that class and kind of got into recording. So then I was like, all right, maybe I want to do recording. And so I added that. I switched to MP&E, and then I took some synth stuff. And then I was like, well, that's cool too. So then that's why I dual majored in the end. But going back to being a kid, like I don't think any other than piano, and like I loved listening to music. Listen to music all the time. I would go to bed, I'd put in anything, like a rock band. I would listen to musicals. I would listen to big band. I used to listen to like Count Basie before I would go to sleep, because I was super into like drummers, any kind of drummers. But I do remember when I was a kid, I used to play with the graphic EQ on my dad's stereo. Because I don't know if you know this,
I know some of that stuff. Yeah,
with the sliders on it, and I would sit there and I would move them and listen to what they did. I had no idea what it was, but I always remember it being like, because it was like from like 60 hertz, like probably up to like 10K, and I couldn't understand why the numbers went like 60, 150, 1K, 3K. I didn't understand what that meant. I was like, these numbers don't make any sense. But sometimes I just make different shapes with it just to see what it sounded like. That's my earliest engineering references.
Wow.
With the graphic EQ on my dad's stereo.
That's pretty good. Like, at what point did you start considering yourself, like labeling yourself as like a mixer or an engineer or like a producer?
I think I had the concept of being an engineer when I was at Berklee. Like I knew that's like once I found my kind of groove at Berklee, I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to LA. I'm going to go work at a big studio because I want to learn, I want to be in an environment. I don't think I really considered myself an engineer for a while. It's a bit of like, what's that term? Where you like imposter, imposter theory or imposter, whatever that is, where you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing, like,
yeah.
That happens a lot. It happens like sometimes it happens when I'm just like, do I know what I'm doing? Because it's art. There's no real right or wrong way to do it.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. It's a hard question. I knew I wanted to do that probably by my like second year at Berklee. I was like, I want to make records in some capacity, from the production side, because I'm very I'm very math. I'm very whatever side brain. Is that left brain? I don't know. I think I'm very structured and organized and like processed. My creative side creeps in when it needs to, but like most of my thought process is like I think comes from that background, and I think that lends towards being an engineer, especially a tracking engineer, because I think tracking is very different than mixing. There's a bit more science involved, but I don't know. Production is different. Production, I think, has been a recent thing. I never really considered myself a producer until really probably the last 3 or 4 years, 4 or 5 years.
I had like checked your like I had never seen your all credits in my own eyes. Like I had heard stuff that you had done, but I like seen in like mostly like your production work was mostly recent.
Yeah.
And
that's mostly because the last couple of years I've been freelance, but before that I worked as an engineer for a producer. So
was that Rich Costy?
Yeah, with Rich. So it was like, he was always the producer, and I was working with him full time. There's never time for me to do project stuff. Like Destroy Boys was like the first real like side project album that I could produce,
and that did great.
Yeah, and everything else, like I would mix at home and mix on the side, but like production it's a lot more. So but now that's what I'm doing now, is I'm kind of blending between the two. I think like production doesn't even have to be a technical thing. Like if you're a creative person, like you could be a producer. You just have to, coming up with the ideas and stuff. And that, it doesn't mean you don't necessarily have to know how to execute them. I mean, it helps if you know how to execute them, but if you work with the right people, and I think production is more about being creative and supportive of the music you're making rather than being technically savvy about it.
Like for yourself, for you, what like justifies your position in the industry and gives you the right to your passion?
I think it goes back to like helping like create something. Because I'm not like the kind of person that I can't sit down and write a song from scratch. I don't have that talent at all. So like being able to be a part of something like that, I think is what I like about it. I mean, I definitely didn't get into this industry to like make any money, that's for sure. Because like you just said, there's thousands of people trying to do the same thing. But I think that like the being able to put out this end result that people enjoy and being a part of that is something that gives me fulfillment. And I think it's just the fact that I've figured out that by being a tracking engineer or a mixer or producer like that side of the music making process is just where I landed, because I feel like that's what I'm good at. I'm not good at writing songs. I'm not good at singing. I'm not even that good of a drummer, like I'm okay. But I feel like listening and dissecting things is something that I'm good at. And translating what people want, and like that to me, like being a part of that is fun. Like I couldn't do this by myself. It's impossible for me to do it by myself. Some people can, but I can't.
Is that why you think you like have survived as a engineer and a mixer?
Probably because there are some people out there that need people like me that are like, we have these great songs and these great ideas, but we don't know how to sound the way we want to sound. And then there's other people that can do everything by themselves and they don't need people like me. It's like there's like so many different kinds of talented people in music, and it's just like finding the right ones, that you work with. And usually it's like I did a podcast last month, and we kind of talked about these same things. But one of the things I remember saying was, you kind of like, one of the questions, like, how did you find your lane? How did you find your groove? And I was like, I don't think I found it by myself. I think I worked on stuff and I was like, well, this is fun and people like this, and it feels easy. It feels effortless. I was like, I should be doing more of that, as opposed to like being like, I'm going to do this. I have to do this, I just didn't work that way for me. It was just kind of like you try different stuff and you're like, oh, working with these kind of people in these situations and we're all getting along and we're all happy with the results. I mean, not that it's always like that, but you shouldn't ever be swimming too hard upstream.
Yeah.
How do we?
Were you ever like trying to engineer or mix differently that like people would like take notice to? Was that
I mean, for me, it's like I try to make things sound as cool as they can and as cool as they need to be for the situation. I would never try to like force something on a client just because I think it's the way it should sound. And sometimes I get backlash from people where I do something and it's like, oh, that sounds too good or too nice, and I like go, okay, well, let's rework this and think, I don't know. It's a hard one because, I don't know. I do stuff based on what influences me. And I don't think I've ever consciously been like, I'm going to do something totally different, because like I said, like what I do is only like the last 10% of the picture, like the artist and the band, they have like their sound is defined before it comes to me,
Yeah,
like
that's
I'm not going to make a band like a band like Destroy Boys is going to be a raucous punk band before they come to me. I'm just going to make them sound bigger. That's all. Like I'm not changing the way that they sing or play guitars or anything like that. Like that's not my job.
What kind of project gives you the most satisfaction?
I think one that like at the end of the day I feel like good about what I'm doing, and
Mhm.
by that I mean like by the end of the day when the mix is playing, I'm like doing this, like I'm not just going through the motions. Like I'm enjoying listening to it, even though I've listened to it 1,000 times that day,
Yeah.
Um, and also like what makes the artist, react and happy, like when people are like, dude, this sounds amazing, like that makes me feel good, as opposed to like, I try not to work on things that I'm not interested in. I mean, sometimes you have to because of, I got to pay the bills, got to keep the lights on, kind
Yeah.
of thing. But and especially this last year, there was a lot of those kind of gigs where it
Yeah.
was
I
like,
was gonna ask
just
you
gotta
about
do
that.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I think the most enjoyment is that we're like, I'm having fun doing it,
Mhm.
and it doesn't feel like a job. That's definitely those gigs where it happens.
Yeah. I'm all finished. Thank you a ton.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
Berkeley is a fun school and has me interview fun people. Yeah. You were the first person I came to. I was like, I think Martin would be an easy one to like ask.
Yeah,
Uh,
man. No
he
problem.
had great answers. Yeah.
I'm glad I could help you along your educational journey.
Thank you. Well, I'll let you get back to mixing if you need to get back to that. But yeah.
I'm done for the night. I do
Oh, you're
banker's
done.
hours, man. Like out by 5.
Let's